Daniel Hayes stared at the document in disbelief. His hands trembled slightly as he read the name on the page. "This can't be possible," Daniel Hayes said quietly. Across the room, Claire Hayes looked up from her chair. "What are you talking about?" Claire Hayes asked. 48 hours earlier, the Hayes mansion stood on a quiet hillside outside Toronto. It was one of the most beautiful homes in the area. Large windows overlooked the city. Luxury cars filled the driveway. Everything about the property reflected wealth and success. Inside the mansion, Lily Carter began another ordinary day. At 20 years old, Lily worked as a live-in maid for the Hayes family. Every morning, she woke up before everyone else. She cleaned the hallways. She organized the kitchen. She prepared the house before the family started their day. Most of the time, nobody noticed her work. And when they did, it was usually to point out a mistake. Lily quietly wiped the kitchen counter while the morning sunlight filled the room. A few minutes later, Robert Hayes entered. Robert Hayes owned one of Canada's largest real estate companies. He was respected by investors and admired by business leaders. At home, however, he rarely paid attention to the people who worked for him. "Good morning, sir," Lily Carter said politely. Robert Hayes nodded once. "Morning." Without saying anything else, he continued toward his office. Soon after, Claire Hayes entered the kitchen carrying a cup of coffee. "Lily," Claire Hayes said. "Yes, Mrs. Hayes," Lily Carter replied. "We have important guests coming tomorrow evening. I want every room prepared perfectly." "Of course, Mrs. Hayes." Claire Hayes looked around the kitchen. "Presentation matters. First impressions matter." "I understand." Claire gave a brief nod and walked away. Not long afterward, Emily Hayes entered. She glanced at the flowers Lily had arranged on the table. Emily frowned. "I don't like those flowers." Lily looked surprised. "Your mother asked for them yesterday." "Well, I still don't like them. I can replace them." "You should." Emily picked up her phone and started walking away. Then she stopped. "Oh, and try not to make any mistakes tomorrow. We don't want guests getting the wrong impression." Lily remained silent. She simply nodded and continued working. A little later, Daniel Hayes walked through the kitchen. Unlike the rest of the family, Daniel usually noticed things others ignored. As he passed by, he saw Lily carrying a stack of folded towels. One slipped from her hands and fell to the floor. Daniel immediately bent down to help. "Here," Daniel Hayes said. "Thank you," Lily Carter replied. As Daniel handed her the towel, something caught his attention. A small silver necklace rested around Lily's neck. Attached to it was an old pendant. Daniel stared at it for a moment. Something about it seemed familiar. "That's an interesting necklace," Daniel Hayes said. Lily gently touched the pendant. "I've had it for as long as I can remember." "Who gave it to you?" "I'm not sure. My mother said I was wearing it when I was very young." Daniel looked at the pendant again. For some reason, he couldn't stop thinking about it. Before he could ask another question, Emily called from another room. "Daniel." Daniel looked toward the hallway. "I should go." Lily nodded politely. As Daniel walked away, he glanced back one more time at the necklace. He didn't know it yet, but that small silver pendant was the first piece of a mystery that would soon change all of their lives. The next morning in the Hayes mansion began like every other day. Quiet, expensive, and controlled. Lily Carter was already working before anyone else was awake. She moved through the hallways carefully, polishing surfaces, arranging rooms, and making sure everything looked perfect. She never complained. She never stopped. That was her life inside the Hayes mansion. A life where she was seen, but never truly noticed. In the kitchen, Lily Carter wiped the counters as soft morning light entered through the large windows. She heard footsteps behind her. Emily Hayes walked in, scrolling on her phone. She barely looked up. "Lily," Emily Hayes said casually. "Yes, Miss Emily," Lily Carter replied. Emily stopped near the counter. "I need you to clean the guest room again." Lily paused slightly. "I already cleaned it last night." Emily finally looked at her. "Then clean it again." There was no anger in Emily's voice. Only entitlement. Lily nodded slowly. "Yes, Miss Emily." Emily turned away as if the conversation had never mattered. A few minutes later, Claire Hayes entered the kitchen. She looked at Lily briefly before speaking. "Lily, the arrangements for tonight are very important," Claire Hayes said. "Important guests expect perfection." "I understand, Mrs. Hayes," Lily Carter replied softly. Claire sipped her coffee. "People notice details in this house. Small mistakes become big impressions." Lily lowered her eyes. "I will be careful." Claire nodded once and left the room. After she was gone, the silence returned. But it wasn't peaceful, it was heavy. Later that afternoon, Lily was carrying a tray of glassware through the hallway. The house was preparing for an investor meeting. Guests would arrive soon. Everything had to be perfect. As Lily turned the corner, she accidentally bumped into a table. One glass slipped from the tray and hit the floor. It shattered loudly. The sound echoed through the hallway. Lily froze immediately. Within seconds, Emily Hayes appeared. Her eyes went straight to the broken glass. "What did you do?" Emily Hayes said sharply. Lily quickly bent down. "I'm sorry, Miss Emily. It was an accident." Emily sighed loudly. "Do you realize how expensive those are?" "I'll replace them," Lily said quickly. Emily crossed her arms. "You always say that." Lily stayed silent. Emily stepped closer. "You know, sometimes I wonder if you actually pay attention to anything you do here." Lily's hands trembled slightly as she picked up the broken pieces. "I said I'm sorry." Emily looked at her for a moment, then shook her head. "Just clean it up properly." She turned and walked away. Not long after, Daniel Hayes appeared at the end of the hallway. He had heard the glass break. He saw Lily crouched on the floor carefully cleaning the pieces. He noticed something in her expression. Not fear, not frustration, just quiet endurance. Daniel walked closer. "You should be careful," Daniel Hayes said. Lily looked up. "Yes, sir." Daniel helped her pick up the remaining pieces. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke. "Does this happen often?" Lily paused. "Accidents?" "No," Daniel said. "The way they talk to you." Lily didn't answer immediately. Instead, she avoided his gaze. "I'm fine," she said softly. But Daniel didn't look convinced. As Lily stood up, Daniel noticed something again. The silver pendant around her neck, the same one from before. He looked at it more carefully this time, and something about it made his expression change slightly, as if a thought had just begun forming in his mind. But he didn't say it out loud. Not yet. The Hayes mansion was unusually busy that evening. Cars were arriving and leaving. Staff moved quickly through the hallways. Everything was being prepared for an important investor dinner hosted by Robert Hayes. Inside the kitchen, Lily Carter worked faster than usual. She was preparing trays, organizing drinks, and making sure nothing was out of place. But the pressure in the house felt different today. Heavier. Like something important was about to happen. Claire Hayes entered the kitchen, followed by Emily Hayes. Both looked perfectly dressed for the evening. "Lily," Claire Hayes said. "Yes, Mrs. Hayes," Lily Carter replied. "I want you to assist during the dinner," Claire said. Lily paused slightly. "Assist, ma'am. You will be serving drinks," Claire clarified. Emily smiled faintly. "Try not to drop anything this time." Lily lowered her eyes. "I won't, Miss Emily." Emily turned to leave, but paused near the door. "Oh, and Lily," Emily said softly. "Try to stay out of sight. These guests are very important people." Lily said nothing. She simply nodded. That evening, the mansion transformed. Soft golden lights filled the dining hall. A long table was set with expensive decorations. Business leaders, investors, and high-profile guests began arriving. Lily stood quietly near the kitchen entrance, holding a tray of drinks. She waited for instructions. From a distance, Daniel Hayes watched her. He was standing near the staircase, observing the room. Something about Lily still bothered him. Not in a clear way, but in a quiet, persistent way. As the dinner began, conversations filled the room. Laughter. Business discussions. Clinking glasses. Then Robert Hayes stood up. "Ladies and gentlemen," Robert Hayes said confidently. "Thank you for joining us this evening." The room grew quiet. "This company continues to grow because of partnerships like yours." Polite applause followed. Lily stood near the edge of the room, serving drinks carefully. She moved slowly to avoid mistakes. But as she approached one of the guests, a man accidentally bumped her arm. The tray tilted. One glass slipped. It fell and shattered on the floor. The room went silent for a moment. All eyes turned toward Lily. "Unbelievable," Emily Hayes said immediately. She walked forward quickly. "Do you realize who is here tonight?" Emily said sharply. Lily quickly bent down. "I'm sorry, it was an accident." Claire Hayes stepped closer, her expression cold but controlled. "That is exactly what we were trying to avoid," Claire said. The guest smiled politely, trying to ease the tension. "It's all right, accidents happen." But Emily didn't stop. Not in this house, she said. Lily stood up slowly, still holding the broken tray. I will clean it immediately. Daniel Hayes stepped forward. Leave it, Daniel said calmly. Everyone looked at him. Emily frowned. Daniel, she just embarrassed us in front of investors. Daniel didn't look at Emily. He looked at Lily. I said leave it. There was a short silence. Lily hesitated. Then she quietly stepped back. A cleaner arrived to handle the glass. As Lily walked away, Daniel followed her with his eyes. And again, he noticed it. The silver pendant. But this time, something felt different. The design was not just old. It looked familiar. Like something he had seen in a document before. Later that night, Daniel sat alone in his study. He opened his laptop. After a moment of hesitation, he typed something into a search page. Missing child cases. He wasn't sure why, but he couldn't stop thinking about Lily. And that necklace. Somewhere deep inside him, a thought was forming. One he couldn't yet explain. But it was starting to feel real. That same night, far away from the Hayes mansion, another home was filled with silence. But this silence was different. It was not peaceful. It was painful. Inside a large private estate in Toronto, William Hamilton sat alone in a dimly lit study. On the desk in front of him were dozens of old documents, photographs, and missing person reports. His eyes looked tired. Not from age, but from years of searching. Lily Hamilton, William Hamilton said quietly to himself. He stared at an old photograph of a little girl. Then he placed it gently back on the table. Across the room, Victoria Hamilton stood by the window. She held a small piece of jewelry in her hand. A broken necklace chain. Her hands were shaking slightly. Do you think she's still alive? Victoria Hamilton asked softly. William didn't answer immediately. After a long pause, he said, I don't know. Victoria closed her eyes. It's been so long. 15 years, William Hamilton replied. And not a single confirmed trace. Silence filled the room again. But this silence carried grief. Not emptiness. Pain. Victoria looked down at the necklace in her hand. This was all we had when she disappeared, she said. William stood up slowly. We never stopped looking, he said. We won't stop now. Back at the Hayes mansion, life continued as if nothing had changed. But for Daniel Hayes, something had changed. He was still in his study, staring at his laptop screen. On it were articles about missing children cases in Canada. One file caught his attention. Unsolved disappearance of Hamilton family child. Daniel leaned closer. The article mentioned a wealthy family. The Hamiltons. A powerful private dynasty known across North America. Daniel read carefully. Their daughter disappeared years ago. No confirmed location. No confirmed identity. Just endless searching. Daniel leaned back in his chair. Something about it felt unsettling. Then he paused. He remembered Lily. Her necklace. Her calm behavior. The way she reacted when asked about her past. A strange feeling formed in his chest. No, Daniel Hayes whispered. He shook his head slightly. It can't be connected. But even as he said it, doubt had already entered his mind. The next morning, Lily Carter arrived at the kitchen earlier than usual. She looked tired. Not physically, but emotionally. The events of the previous night still weighed on her. Emily Hayes walked in shortly after. She glanced at Lily briefly. You're early, Emily said. Lily nodded. I wanted to finish my work before the guests arrive again today. Emily smirked slightly. Try not to break anything this time. Lily didn't respond. She simply continued working. A few minutes later, Daniel Hayes entered the kitchen. He looked different today. More focused. More serious. He stopped near Lily. I need to ask you something, Daniel Hayes said. Lily looked up. Yes. Daniel hesitated for a moment. Then he spoke. Do you remember anything about your childhood? The question froze the room. Lily paused. Her hands stopped moving. Then she slowly shook her head. No, she said quietly. I don't remember much. Daniel studied her expression carefully. You don't remember where you were born? Lily looked down. My mother told me I was found with this necklace. She touched the pendant. Daniel's eyes narrowed slightly. That was the second time he had heard that. Found, he repeated softly. Lily nodded. She said I was very young. Maybe a few years old. Daniel didn't speak for a moment. Then he quietly said, "Interesting," and walked away. But now, he was no longer just curious. He was beginning to suspect something much bigger. Something that could change everything inside the Hayes mansion. Downstairs, Lily Carter was cleaning the dining area. The house was quiet. Only soft footsteps and distant movement from staff could be heard. Lily worked carefully, trying to stay invisible as always. But she noticed something. Daniel Hayes was standing at the end of the hallway. Watching her. Not speaking. Just watching. Lily slowed down slightly. "Is everything all right, sir?" she asked gently. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Then he walked closer. "I need to ask you something again," Daniel Hayes said. Lily nodded. "Of course." Daniel paused. Then spoke carefully. "If someone came looking for you, someone from your past, what would you say?" Lily looked confused. "I don't understand." Daniel studied her face. "You said you were found as a child," he said. "With no clear memory." Lily nodded slowly. "Yes." Daniel took a breath. "And the necklace, you still don't know where it came from." Lily touched it gently. "My mother told me I had it when she found me." Daniel's expression tightened slightly. "Found you?" he repeated. Lily nodded again. "She raised me." Silence followed. A heavy one. Daniel looked away for a moment. Then he said, "Have you ever tried to look for your real family?" Lily hesitated. "I don't know if I have one to look for," she said softly. That answer hit Daniel harder than he expected. Later that evening, Daniel made a decision. He opened a secure search portal on his computer. He typed carefully, "Hamilton missing child necklace silver pendant." He pressed search. For a moment, nothing loaded. Then results appeared. Old news articles. Archived reports. And one image. Daniel's eyes locked onto it. It was the same necklace. Same design. Same shape. Same pendant. His heart rate increased slightly. "No way," Daniel Hayes said under his breath. He stood up immediately. But before he could react further, footsteps approached the room. Emily Hayes entered. "What are you doing?" she asked suspiciously. Daniel quickly closed the laptop. "Nothing," he said. But Emily noticed something in his expression. "You've been acting strange lately," Emily said. Daniel didn't answer. He walked past her without speaking. That night, Lily stood alone near a window in the mansion. She looked outside at the city lights. Something felt different. She couldn't explain it. But she felt it. Like something was moving around her life. Slowly. Quietly. Closing in. Inside the house behind her, Daniel Hayes sat in silence. Staring at one final thought. The necklace. The missing child case. And Lily Carter. Three things. That were starting to connect. The next morning arrived, quietly, but the atmosphere inside the Hayes mansion felt different. Heavier. Tense. Daniel Hayes had not slept. He stayed in his study all night, going through every document he could find about the Hamilton missing child case. And now, something had finally changed. He had found a sealed archive report. One that had never been widely published. Daniel stared at the screen. His eyes narrowed. The report contained a detail that made everything stop making sense. A silver necklace with a unique pendant design. And a note written underneath it. Last known item found with missing child at time of disappearance. Daniel Hayes leaned back slowly in his chair. His heart was beating faster now. "It's her," he whispered. But he still didn't want to believe it. Downstairs, Lily Carter was continuing her work as usual. But today, everything felt slightly off. Emily Hayes watched her more than usual. Claire Hayes barely spoke. Even Robert Hayes seemed distracted during breakfast. Lily noticed the silence. But she said nothing. She simply continued working. Later that afternoon, Daniel called for a private meeting with Claire Hayes. Inside the study, Claire sat across from him. "Daniel," Claire Hayes said, "you've been acting strange all week. What is going on?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he placed the printed document on the table. Claire looked at it. At first, she didn't understand. Then she read deeper. Her expression slowly changed. "No," Claire Hayes said quietly. Daniel spoke carefully. "The necklace Lily wears matches the one from the Hamilton missing child case." Claire shook her head slightly. "That's impossible. I checked it 3 times, Daniel said firmly. Claire stood up. "You're saying our maid is connected to the Hamilton family?" Daniel didn't answer directly. But his silence said everything. At that moment, Emily Hayes walked into the room. She noticed the tension immediately. "What's going on?" Emily asked. Claire didn't respond. Daniel turned toward Emily. "I think Lily Carter is not who we think she is." Emily frowned. "She's a maid." Daniel shook his head. "She was found as a child," he said, "with no known identity, and she has a necklace that matches a missing Hamilton child report." Emily laughed nervously. "That's ridiculous." But her voice didn't sound confident. Downstairs, Lily Carter was suddenly called to the study. She entered slowly. All 3 Hayes family members were there. Robert Hayes stood near the window. Claire sat stiffly. Emily looked uncomfortable. And Daniel was watching her closely. "Lily," Daniel Hayes said softly. Lily nodded. "Yes, sir." Daniel paused for a moment. Then he asked the question that changed everything. "Do you know anything about the Hamilton family?" Lily froze. Just for a second. But long enough for everyone to notice. "I've never heard of them," she said quietly. Claire exchanged a quick look with Daniel. Daniel stepped forward slightly. "We believe you may be connected to them," he said. Lily blinked slowly. "Connected?" Daniel nodded. "Possibly, their missing daughter." The room went completely silent. Lily's face changed. Confusion. Shock. Fear. "I don't understand," she said softly. Claire stood up. "Daniel, this is too much," she said. But Daniel didn't look away from Lily. Because in that moment, he knew they were standing at the edge of the truth. And one more step would change everything. The room inside the Hayes mansion felt completely frozen. No one spoke. Not even Claire Hayes. Not even Emily. Only silence filled the space after Daniel's words. Lily Carter stood in the center of the room, her hands slightly trembling. Possibly their missing daughter. Those words kept repeating in her mind. Slowly, she took a step back. "I don't understand any of this," Lily said quietly. Her voice was unstable now. For the first time, she no longer sounded calm. Daniel Hayes didn't move closer. He simply watched her carefully. "We found records," Daniel said. "Old ones. Your necklace matches a missing child case from the Hamilton family." Lily shook her head. "No, that's not possible." Her breathing became uneven. Claire Hayes looked uncomfortable. "This is getting out of control," Claire said. But Daniel raised his hand slightly. "Let her speak." Silence returned. Lily looked around the room. All eyes were on her. Like she was no longer just a maid. But something else. Something unknown. "I don't remember anything," Lily said softly. "Nothing about a missing family. Nothing about being anyone special." Her voice cracked slightly. "I was raised by my adoptive mother. That's all I know." Emily crossed her arms. "So you're saying you know nothing?" Lily nodded slowly. "I don't." Daniel stepped forward again, but more gently this time. "Lily, do you remember anything before you were adopted?" Lily closed her eyes. She tried to think. But only fragments came. Flashes of confusion. A blurred face. A woman crying. Then nothing. She opened her eyes again. "I can't remember," she whispered. The room stayed silent. Robert Hayes, who had remained quiet until now, finally spoke. "If this is true, it changes everything." Claire looked at him. Robert, we don't even know if it is true. But Daniel interrupted. It is. His voice was firm. Everyone turned toward him. Daniel placed another document on the table. A DNA comparison request form. I sent a sample for private verification earlier today, he said. Emily frowned. You did what? Daniel didn't look at her. I needed confirmation. Claire stepped closer. And? Daniel paused. For the first time, his expression softened slightly. It came back with a 99.9% match probability. Silence hit the room like a wave. Lily's eyes widened. No, she whispered. Her knees almost gave out. Daniel moved quickly but didn't touch her. It means you are likely connected to the Hamilton family, he said gently. Lily shook her head repeatedly. No, I don't understand, I don't remember any of this. Her voice broke completely now. Claire looked shocked. Emily looked confused. Robert looked stunned. But Daniel looked certain. Just then, a car pulled up outside the mansion. Everyone heard it. 2 cars. Then footsteps approaching the door. The bell rang. A servant opened the door. And 2 people stepped inside. William Hamilton. Victoria Hamilton. They had arrived. Lily turned toward the entrance slowly. As William Hamilton saw her face, he stopped completely. His breath caught in his throat. Victoria Hamilton covered her mouth. Lily, she whispered. The name fell into the room like a storm. And in that moment, everything changed forever. The room remained silent for a long moment. No one moved. No one spoke. Only the sound of heavy breathing filled the Hayes mansion. Lily Carter stood frozen in the center of the room. Her eyes were locked on the 2 people who had just entered. William Hamilton and Victoria Hamilton. Victoria took one slow step forward. Her voice trembled. Lily. The name sounded like something she had not said in many years. Lily's lips parted slightly. But no words came out. William Hamilton stared at her face carefully. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Then slowly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photograph. He placed it in front of Lily. A picture of a little girl. Wearing the same silver necklace. Lily's hands began to shake. I don't understand, she whispered. Victoria stepped closer. You were taken from us when you were 5 years old, Victoria said softly. Lily shook her head. No, I don't remember any of this. Her voice broke. I don't remember you, I don't remember anything. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. We never stopped looking for you, she said. For 15 years, not a single day passed without hope. Lily looked down at the photograph again. Her breathing became uneven. Suddenly, a flash of memory hit her. A woman's voice calling her name. A car. A hand reaching for her. Then darkness. She gasped. Her knees weakened. Daniel Hayes stepped forward quickly. But William Hamilton was faster. He caught her gently. Lily, it's okay, William said softly. For the first time, Lily didn't pull away. Victoria placed her hand on Lily's cheek. You are home now, she whispered. Tears finally fell from Lily's eyes. Not from fear. But from confusion breaking into emotion. Claire Hayes stood silently behind them. Emily looked away, unable to process what she was seeing. Even Robert Hayes had nothing to say. The truth had already spoken for itself. Daniel Hayes exhaled slowly. He had been right. But the reality felt heavier than he expected. Hours later, the mansion was quieter. The Hamilton family sat together with Lily in a private room. Slowly, pieces of her memory began to return. Not everything. But enough. Enough to understand who she was. Enough to understand what had been lost. Victoria held her hand tightly. We will take you home, she said. Lily nodded slowly. But she also looked back at the Hayes mansion. At Daniel. At the place she had worked for so long. I need time, she said softly. William nodded. Take all the time you need. Later that evening, Daniel stood alone near the balcony. Lily walked toward him slowly. Thank you, she said. Daniel looked at her. For what? For not ignoring me, Lily replied. Daniel shook his head slightly. I just followed the truth. Lily gave a small, emotional smile. You changed everything. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Then he said quietly. No, the truth did. A silence followed. Then Lily turned to leave. But she stopped. Daniel. Yes. If you hadn't noticed, I would have never known who I am. Daniel looked at her for a moment. Then simply said, sometimes people don't get lost, they just need someone to look closer. Lily nodded slowly. And walked away with her real family. Sometime later, a video appeared online. The story of a missing child. A maid in a mansion. A hidden identity. And a truth that changed two powerful families forever. Thank you for watching. What would you have done if you discovered the truth about your identity after so many years? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Rich and Poor Stories for more emotional stories like this.